Hello, hello. It is Friday, the 31st of January. We finally got to the end of the month, guys. Can you believe that? Oh my goodness, how are you guys doing? It is so late. It is actually almost midnight here in Nairobi, coming to you from the beautiful city of Nairobi, and we're going to be discussing unemployment. Yes, unemployment is something that many of us have faced at one point or another. Yes. And that's why it's important for us to discuss it because it affects us one way or the other. It affects both our mental health as well as our relationships. And it also affects our financial health. It affects us in so many ways, guys. So if you have been struggling with unemployment, this is the show for you. I am going to be joined by my wonderful colleague Susan, who's going to be joining us very soon. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about unemployment. And before I even talk too much about unemployment, let me share with you some interesting statistics that I came across, which was so shocking. Yeah. Basically, in Kenya, we have a situation where we have about almost 6,000 Kenyans have become unemployed over the past 3 years. Most of them who are affected in the manufacturing sector. Okay, and in the agricultural sector, there is 12 billion shillings worth of VAT refunds that have not been given to farmers, and this is it's disrupting operations. It's also hindering the growth of the industry and it's reducing employment opportunities for Kenyans. Okay. And this is ultimately affecting the economic growth of the country. Because you see, Kenya depends a lot on what? On agriculture. Sorry for if I'm making too much noise with this thing here. So basically, what we're seeing is that again, a lot of people are getting laid off. Okay, and these layoffs are happening all over the world, and especially also in the U.S. right now. There's a lot of layoffs. Like for example, in that President Trump effected an executive order to remove aid, to basically disrupt aid to the developing world, right? The U.S. is by far the biggest contributor of aid to developing countries. It contributes 42% of the total aid to developing countries, and that aid is being disrupted. And over 600 workers, contract workers of USAID have been made to lose their jobs. Oh, Susan has joined us. Let me invite her to the show. Welcome, Susan. Hope you can hear me. Karibu sana. Hey, you almost did a somersault.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know why it's. Can you see me?
Yeah, very well. You look very smart today.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on. I was listening. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, that's Susan. She's our lawyer. Yeah. And, I came across a very interesting video that I would love to share with you if I can. I'd like to share my screen because there's this lady who was talking about her experience with being laid off and the fact that, she actually went through being laid off and how it made her feel, how insecure she felt, and how frightened it was for her. Like all of a sudden, she noticed that there were so many people at the door, cops at the door, and she was wondering what was going on. She had no idea. So let me see if I can play a little bit of that video for you. Here it is. I'm going to share a bit of it for you. Okay, here she is. Her name is T. Michelle. All right, so there she is.
More security than normal. I'm about to
From the beginning. Okay.
yesterday when I went into work, they had more security than normal. I'm about to turn into the parking lot and they're telling me that as of today will be my last day in the office.
Yeah, let me pull this a bit forward, guys.
7 years. I started with the company in February of 2014 and I was just shy of that, like maybe like a month shy. I had a feeling that this was going to happen. The company was going through a lot of restructuring. Prior to being laid off today, my position was moved to a different department. It was newly created, and I was moved to under a new manager.
Hmm.
And the move didn't really make sense to me. Like my manager prior to that, he was blindsided. He didn't know that I was going to be taken away from him. Um, just being moved to this department didn't make sense. So from that day, I can't remember when it was, maybe like October, September, October, something like that. It just didn't really make sense to me. And so I just started getting these really bad feelings. Like I would tell my friends, I would tell my coworkers. I even told my colleague, like, this move doesn't make sense. So
Okay, guys, I'm going to interrupt the sharing so that you listen to what I would call, the red flags. Okay, when you know you're going to get laid off. First of all, company is restructuring. Whenever you hear that the company is restructuring, start thinking about your job immediately. Okay, another thing, she was moved, yeah, from one team to another. So some positions became eliminated, and she was moved to a different team, and her direct manager was blindsided. What that means is that he was not aware that this was going to happen. So he really didn't have a role for her, and she basically had to start again from the beginning. Okay. And then again, she had that feeling of intuition that something was wrong. She noted that there was additional security at the door. So let's continue and listen to this.
I just got a bunch of different feelings, intuition. So under the my new manager, he started consolidating like roles and consolidating different work that we do, and that just really didn't make sense. Like it's two of my position. To meet another guy, we do the same thing, but under this new department, this manager wanted other positions to learn what we do. Not that I didn't do my job. Like I said, I was with the company for 11 years, but I moved to a new role 2.5 years ago.
Okay, here are some other ones. She was moved after working for 11 years for her company to a different role, and she was made to train other people in her role. Okay, that's another red flag.
And so since I was new to that role, I already knew that I was going to be the one to be eliminated. My colleague is really good at what he does. He knows the ins and out of the department, working with different vendors. And since I was new, I knew that I was going to get, when the time came, I was going to be eliminated. Yesterday, when I went into work, they had more security than normal at the front entrance of the building. Normally, we can just go into the building without badging in, but when we got to the gate, we had to badge in. But yesterday, we actually had the badge into the door. They had security at the door to make sure that every individual was badging in. And I'm like, that's weird. I thought maybe like an incident happened in the area where a non-employee tried to get in, like someone from the public.
Okay, let me interrupt again. And here is some other red flags. Duplication of roles, that she was actually working with somebody who was already very good at their role, and she knew the person. And because she's been with the company for so long, she already knew the person. The other thing is change in procedures and procedural changes in terms of like entry into the building, having to punch in, having to show your card and your identity when you come in. So those are really good red flags for things are going to be making a big. There's going to be a big change happening at your company. Get ready. Be prepared.
Public tried to get in. Normally, they was in a communication about that, and they did not yesterday. So I was like, yeah, this is extra weird. So when I got up to my floor, I noticed that an entire department wasn't there. This
Mhm.
department normally has about 15 to 20 people there, and none of them were there. The only person that was there was the manager. So it's like, damn, that's weird. Why are none of them here? When I talked to my colleague yesterday, he was like, do you find it weird that they have extra security at the door? I was like, yeah, I noticed that, but I don't have any thoughts about it really. He was like, yeah, because they're probably going to get ready to lay off people.
Do you notice, guys, that she, first of all, she did not, there was a whole department that wasn't there. And yet she was not really paying attention. She didn't think too much about it. It's her colleague who told her, who said to her, hey, have you noticed that there's a change? It just probably means we're going to get laid off. and she hadn't really paid attention to it. This is what happens when you become complacent at the job. I'm not saying that she's complacent, but she was actually complacent because she didn't actually notice these changes were happening right in front of her face. And by the way, I'll let you know that this lady is very, very, very skilled. She's got a master's degree. She has a bachelor's and a master's degree, and also she's working in the area of aviation. Okay, so she's actually very skilled.
So I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. So when he said that, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna be laid off. Anyway, so today I dropped the kids off to school like I normally do. I had to go to the bank. I mean, the bank doesn't open until 8, so I knew I was going to be late going into the office today, which for very good reason this happened. So I was late. So by the time I worked about 40 minutes away from where I live. I got over that way, I was already about 7 minutes late. Typically on my way to work, I check my calendar, or the night before, I check my calendar to make sure I don't have any meetings at 9. Earlier this morning, when I checked my work calendar, I didn't have anything on my schedule prior to 9 o'clock. But on my way to work this morning, I just happened to check my calendar and it says one on one discussion. And it was just me and my boss listed. And I'm thinking if it's going to be a layoff, it'll be my boss and I, and then someone from HR. So that meeting was supposed to be at 9:20, but he ended up calling me on Teams and he said, "Do you have time for a really quick conversation?" This was at like 9:07, 9:08, something like that. And I'm like, "Yeah." I already knew what was going to happen.
Okay, so basically, here is another red flag. Fact is that she was expecting that if she was going to be laid off, she was expecting a member from the HR department to be there. But of course, because she's been working for the company for 11 years, it was just going to be a casual discussion with her boss. Again, early in the morning before she left her house, she checked and she saw that there were no meetings that were scheduled. But all of a sudden, as she's driving, at around 9 o'clock, she checks again and she finds that there's a meeting that has been scheduled, kind of like off the cuff, with herself and her boss. This is unusual for her. Okay, and this is the thing. Everything is changing. It's changing right in front of your face, and it's good to pay attention.
We had a discussion, whatever. He's telling me I'm going to get laid off. While I'm on the phone with them, I am about
Yeah, so he drops the bombshell and he has the discussion and tells her she's going to get laid off. Okay, although she had a hunch, now it's confirmed by her boss.
2 to 3 minutes from turning into the parking lot of the job. My thing is, if they knew they were going to lay me off, they could have sent me a text last night, earlier this morning, telling me not to come into work and to work from home. They didn't have to say, "Are you going to be laid off today?" Just work from home today. I'm about to turn into the parking lot, and they're telling me that as of today will be my last day in the office. Anyway, so
Can you imagine, guys? You work for an organization, a company for 11 years. 11 years. And this is a young woman here. That means from her early 20s until probably early 30s. This woman is a mother of 3 kids, and she also has a child with a disability, I think, or a special needs condition. And she talked about it later. But can you imagine being told as you're driving into the parking lot of your office, guess what? You're not going to be coming, forget about it. So she turns around. Listen to her.
instead of going into the office, obviously, I just turned around and went home. After getting off of the call with my ex boss in HR, everything was turned off. I no longer had access to emails,
Yeah.
Teams, SharePoint, none of that stuff. So imagine me going into the office trying to badge in and I can't badge in. Do you know how embarrassing that would have been? How humiliating that would have been for me? A simple text last night or early this morning, work from home. But
Sometimes I wonder, guys, why is it that bosses want to humiliate workers? Why do they humiliate workers this way? Why? Because the question is, why is it that they moved her? They removed her from SharePoint, from Teams. These are all communication tools that are given to her, and closed off her accounts. And now she could not communicate. That means that also impacts on her ability to share her views, her concerns, or even, it should be a two-way street. Yeah. And I think Susan will talk to us about the 360 degree. Maybe she knows about it. But these are red flags for very toxic workplaces. This is very toxic. It's a very bad way to work with your employees. Yeah.
I didn't get that. So now that I'm officially laid off, I don't have a job. I don't really know if they're going to provide any additional severance other than my regular pay at the end of the month. I'll get an email about that tomorrow. But I guess I'll apply for unemployment, update my resume, and just figure out what I'm gonna do until I find a new job.
Hmm.
And that is that. 11 years, and now nothing. I have to start all over with a new company, getting to know new people, explaining my life, explaining my son's medical condition, trying to work around that, trying to find a job that will work around that with the salary that I would like. It's not, I'm not going to say it's not going to be easy because you never know. It could be. Well, so yeah, right now I'm jobless and I'll just be home every day trying to figure it out until then. I'm not going to let the kids know. I'm just going to go about my daily. Sometimes I work from home. I used to work from home sometimes anyway. I only had to go into the office 2 days, and then the other days I would work from home. So they would probably think that I'm just working from home. I'm gonna sit at my desk like I normally do with my laptop and my iPad. That's that. So now I got to figure out life after being laid off.
Okay. So, guys, this is really sad. This is really sad. Yeah, this is really sad, guys. Now this lady, I watched a follow up video of hers where, at least some positives. The company actually took some steps. The company outsourced coaching, okay, to help find, yeah, they outsourced coaching to help her find another job. She also gets a 2 weeks pay and also severance pay because she's been working for about 11 years. But she talked about the fact that she has 3 kids and she decided to just take a break. And you can see the trauma on her. Except one thing I really like about her, and kudos to her, she's not like many other women out there crying that you can't even hear what she's actually saying. Like, oh my God, I lost my job. I don't know what to do. And she is so controlled. She's so controlled. I really am impressed by this lady. She's a single mom of 3 kids. And fortunately, at least the company outsourced coaching for her. She gets 2 weeks pay. And also, she said that she has considered businesses and she has tried different businesses before. She tried a clothing business. She tried a t-shirt business. She tried a food business. She tried a party business. Yeah. So this is a girl who is very enterprising and she's tried different businesses before. But the problem is that she says that she's concerned about the economy, whether the economy is ready, whether there would be demand for services. And this is her concern and everybody's concern who is in business. Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much for listening to that. Susan, do you have any thoughts to share on that?
Yeah, certainly. I think her work environment was toxic. That poor communication is a deliberate way of controlling the situation by the employer. Um, Even the way the humiliation, even before that, when she was being asked to train other people on how to do her job, and then there was doubling up of she was doing the same job as somebody else who was really competent at the work, and the changes that they were just watching. I mean, a department going missing and stuff like that. Certainly, that was a toxic environment, and it doesn't foster good, you know, good outputs at the end of the day. Um, yeah, and I think in such a circumstance, she must have been, though she doesn't speak of them, there must have been other red flags that her workplace was really toxic. Um, looks like the overbearing, high-handedness, the micromanagement, information being given piecemeal. Once this way, that way. And as you said, she was a master's degree holder, somebody who's quite skilled. And usually when there's restructuring and stuff like that, the right way to treat people is actually to prepare them for it, even enable them to transition into other jobs, not to just do things suddenly. Because that even if you give somebody, the severance pay or whatever it is, if they have not obtained a skill that was going to help them, there's a problem. I mean, here in Kenya, we had what they called the golden handshakes, and they had a project where they would train. What happened is they discovered that people were taking golden handshakes and ending up not knowing how to handle self-employment after so many years of being employed. And so they would not plan well. They'll take their golden handshake and try to build a mansion, to live in. And then they're not able to complete it because the money is finished. And then they slip into poverty. And then mental health illness because they were not helped to supported by their former employer to transition into a self-employment frame of mind or into a retirement frame of mind. So in a case like this, the right thing should have been really for her to be given the opportunity to transition into another job, to prepare her to be self-employed. And the example you are giving of so many jobs to do, she certainly was not somebody who had the experience of self-employing herself, because even the questions about the economy, somebody who's been in self-employment would have done a lot of research before to figure out which field, which area suits her, and where there's a space where the economy is booming and something that she's competent at doing. So she was not prepared at all for it, which makes the situation so much more tragic. But she was definitely working in a very toxic environment, if you ask me. And there's lots of information we don't have, which she's not sharing, because you can tell from her nature she's a very sort of stoic person. She's quite controlled. That she also had a lot of dignity. She was able to assess and say, the embarrassment of trying to get in and you find, you can't get in. The humiliation that she was being experienced, that she was her employer was putting her through, and these type of things can cause serious loss in confidence. Somebody who's really confident can really suffer from a lot of confidence. Their self-confidence can just drop drastically. They feel a sense of serious rejection and confusion and stuff like that. So even if you're trying to start again, because literally that's what was expected of her. She's young. She has 3 children to raise, and she's got to start again. She's got to find a way to do this. Her mental frame, her mind, the mental state is not, suitable for her to be able to be so, um, to just transition automatically. Because you need to start a business, to go into the self-employment space. You need to have the right frame of mind. You have to have the energy to do certain things and really have the confidence to speak to people, without feeling easily intimidated. But if you've gone through something so negative, it's not so easy to be very confident. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Susan. That's so true, by the way. Yeah, it's a real blow to her confidence. It's going to make her question, was I really good at my work? Why would they let me go this way in such humiliation? 11 years is a very, very long time. And funny enough, in the comment section, I agree with everything you said. And in the comment section, because I like following comments, that lady, I hope you guys, we were just showed a video, by the way, Fia, and anyone else who has just joined us right now. We just showed a video of a lady who is just being laid off. and all, her going through all her emotions and all the red flags, and then people were asking her in the comment section, first of all, why did you come 7 minutes late and talk about it so nonchalantly? And she explained that actually because she's been working remotely 3 days and only coming into the office 2 days a week. So she's been in that environment. Those are her friends. Those are, her colleagues are now like her family. They know that she has a special needs child. She's a single mom. So they will always give her maybe that 7 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, being late for work. So I think she had a good relationship with her colleagues at work. And you can see her colleagues are even telling her, like, don't you think maybe we're going to get laid off today? That kind of thing. Then they started asking her, have you tried other things like maybe DoorDash? People started giving her unsolicited advice to do different types of jobs like DoorDash. And then that is when she did, DoorDash are people who deliver food, like Uber Eats and stuff like that. And she said that she tried to do DoorDash once. She has actually tried all these businesses. But the trouble is that she said she spent too much money on petrol rather than on, making money from the deliveries. And you see, then it kind of forced her to give like a little bit of a little to share her CV with people. Yeah. And she said that she was working for an aviation company. She started off as a receptionist. Then she went back to school and she became a technical librarian, and then which ensures that that they update manuals. And then she talked about electronic flight something administrator, then flight operations and compliance. And so now she's looking towards an IT role. Okay, she wants to work in the area of support and compliance. This woman is very smart. Looking at her, she looks like a very simple lady, like a very humble lady who doesn't really have much education. But it's not good to judge people by the cover. Don't judge a book by the cover. This woman is smart. And one person actually said to her, I think one of the things that I picked up from the comment section is somebody said, procrastination is assassination to your destination. I picked that up and I said, that's nice. Procrastination is an assassination to your destination. Because what happens, like Susan is saying, is that you can get such a big hit from that kind of experience that you lay back, and then all of a sudden you start to procrastinate because now you don't have any more confidence and you stop applying for jobs. And the trouble is that if you stop applying for jobs, you're wasting time, yeah, and you're procrastinating, and that can assassinate, yeah, it can actually stop you from achieving your final objective. Yeah. So she was saying that so many people are giving her advice as if she doesn't know what she's about, what she doesn't know what she should do, but she is very well qualified and she's experienced. But then she said she had never really experienced being out of a job ever. In fact, she said since she was out of high school, she has been working and never had a
Mm,
break. So she was very shocked when she suddenly became unemployed. Yeah. Susan, you
yeah.
can respond, and then I can also share another video about
Yeah. In
now
fact,
about different type of thing.
yeah, I was just doing perusing the internet to find out what type of things one should avoid if they find themselves out of a job or look when they're looking in between jobs. And the information was that one is to avoid becoming complacent because your energy, you're so used to going to the doing this, because you're so used to being employed, you have a routine which you have set up, so you're not able to manage yourself on your own. So avoid becoming complacent. The second is don't overlook your mental health, because it's very easy to slip into that space. Remember during the COVID season when people suddenly found themselves having to stay home and not go physically to the office, before they worked out that some jobs can still be done online. People suffered serious mental health issues. And I remember, that some people were told, look, if you need to get into that routine of going to the office, get up in the morning, get ready to go to work, get into your car, drive around a bit, come back home and get out, and then come back into the house, because some people could not adjust and it caused them serious mental health problems. Then the other one is don't compare yourself with others. So, for instance, if she looks at herself and says and sees, I've been working for 11 years. I'm at this age. I was earning this amount of money, and then somebody else seems to be doing much better than she is. When she looks around, maybe some of the people that she was laid off with, because she was laid off with others, and you start comparing yourself with that person, or maybe you think, oh, if I had taken a job in a different place and not this place, my circumstances may be different. So you need to stop thinking of the what ifs and comparing yourself with others. It's not a healthy way to look at life, because you're really you're pushing yourself further down mentally. So you need to just understand that each person has their own path in life, and you take your own path. You might be the same age, but people reach a certain destination differently. And we know, even when we look at our career paths, it might be a degree course, and maybe you did it as a professional, and somebody else did it as a bachelor's degree, but you both ended up in the same sort of career at the end of the day. There are many routes. That's just the way life is. Um, and the fourth one is, don't give up too easily. So, for instance, I'd encourage this young lady to keep trying, to perhaps go back to the drawing board, do some research, real serious research about the type of jobs she can do, or the market space that she'd like to enter, and find one that matches her well. And then come out of her comfort zone and start networking. Go out, change your behavior in terms of being a more social person and really looking for work. I know for some people that's not so easy. The other thing is to not to be afraid to learn new skills through online courses or workshops. The other one is to make sure she's exercising regularly. With somebody with 3 children, definitely there's a lot of involuntary exercise, maybe chasing their children around or stuff like that, that that now you have to do a specific exercise, set aside time really to be to do that exercise. And then the other thing is set achievable goals. So, for instance, if
Yeah.
she was earning a certain amount of money, not to expect that she would, if she's starting from scratch, that she will start at that level. So she has to
Mm-hmm.
set achievable goals, um,
Mm-hmm.
and look for a support system for that. And then the other one is maintain a positive attitude,
Ah.
like they're saying. If they don't have the right attitude to things, it becomes very, very challenging. um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what can you control? Don't look at
Mm-hmm.
what you can't. So she doesn't need to look backwards on what they did to her. That
Mm-hmm.
she can pursue through a legal action, and then just leave it at the lawyers and stuff like that. But she needs
Mm-hmm.
to look ahead. Um, and we're speaking to everybody who's gone through some sort of uh, gone through been in a toxic workplace and found yourself out, literally out on the streets so suddenly without any warning, expecting you to observe and make assumptions. I mean, I think that is really wrong, because again, you don't know when that assumption that you can see is going to crystallize into something so negative. The other thing is to keep yourself busy by volunteering as you're looking for work. It's the little things that you can do here and there, so that you're keeping that human contact, and even with people of your age and peers. When you're a single mom, you're surrounded by your children and stuff like that. It's good also to interact with adults. Sometimes you can spend so much time with your children and you're not spending any time with adults. It's not very healthy for you. The other one is get into hobbies, and keep engaged, so that you maintain a sense of purpose. Good hobbies, hiking, swimming, anything, learning how to play chess or drafts or something. The other one is prioritize self care, adopt healthy habits like good nutrition, and make sure you sleep well. We've talked about this. When you don't get enough sleep and when you don't get enough rest, it's very, very dangerous. Don't forget that as a form of torture, which actually has been outlawed by international conventions, is sleep deprivation. It's actually a way of You can actually, I remember reading somewhere that the lack of sleep can kill you faster than lack of water or food. So let's just take care of ourselves and just focus on getting a better job, looking for better opportunities, and don't give up. Don't give up too easily.
Very encouraging stuff, Susan. Very encouraging. And I typed it all up. And Louis is back. He's here. He says, Louis, welcome, 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 Louis. How's it going? How is the job search going? Huh? Okay, Louis is saying, I was listening to Joe Reagan podcast, and the topic was a study where they identified that depression can cause retardation. That might be the reason for procrastination when trying to upskill. Retardation, as in what he means, I think, is not being retarded, but basically like slowing down, like it stops, kind of slows you down so that if you procrastinate too much, you can get depressed. And then that depression can make you become retarded. And it's true. I think it's a cyclical thing. It's almost like grieving. Yeah, it's like grieving. When you had something going and it was good and then you lose it, you do have to go through a grieving process. Anger is part of it, disbelief, negotiation and everything else, you go through it. And I think the most important thing is just to understand where you are in the process of the grief, and also try to see that you still have to get yourself up. You really need not to lose yourself, because once you lose yourself, you've lost everything. So I think one has to guard jealously our self-esteem as much as possible and be around positive people. Try to avoid being around negative people and negative situations, and always be your own best, your own best what, your own best friend. Your own cheerleader. Yeah, you have to believe in yourself, because actually what you find is, especially if you're in business, maybe you're a contractor or something like that, you've been working, serious business, it means that there have been many lonely times that you spent by yourself when nobody else believed in your dream except yourself. Yeah. And so one has to lean on to those. One has to remember that. Remember where you were when you were just by yourself and nobody believed in you. And if you're very young and you haven't actually had the chance to work as a contractor or anything like that, remember when maybe you were struggling with a subject in class, yeah, in maybe a university, and you thought you would never make it and nobody believed you could do it, but you did it. Or you went through some sort of challenge in your life that you didn't believe that you could go overcome. I think it's good to remind ourselves of the possibilities as much as possible and not lose sight of the fact that, there is enough work. Another thing is also to remember to focus on work and not getting a job. Yeah, find work. Find work. I saw someone say, find work to do, and there's plenty of work. If one focuses on work, yeah, then and focuses away from a job, work can become a job. Yeah, work can actually become a job for you, an income earning job. Let's take a look at another video here that I'd like to show you now. This one is about the types of contracts, the types of work that there is out there. And let's share, guys. Let's not be afraid to share. It's not an easy subject for all of us. All of us have been through a lot. This is about how insecure jobs replaced good jobs. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. I was watching it before, so let me see. Make it. This is about 3 minutes long. They call it precarious.
So what is precarious work and how prevalent is that today?
Precarious work is a scourge that is growing in many advanced economies. In Australia, where I'm from, it's particularly prevalent, where now almost or over 50% of all the workforce has some experience of precarity. Precarious work does not have any one particular form. It's often a combination of factors. It could be a combination of vehicles. It could be casual, insecure in your hours. It could be temporary, migrant status, independent contracting when you should be in an employee relationship. And it could be forms of self-employment, marginal self-employment. And the point is a combination of all these new forms of precarious work come together to create a whole new and a different experience of work from the post-war period of where we had stronger institutions that supported full-time, yearly round available secure work with access to entitlements and benefits. The reasons why precarious work have expanded for a number of factors. For starters, we can say that there's been a really coordinated push by employers to decrease the costs of their wage bills. And secure work comes at a greater cost to employers because they have to pay for social reproduction of that work and make sure that they're looked after when they're unwell, they're not at work, that they have holidays, all the things that unions had fought for in the post-war period to make sure work was a more meaningful and well-remunerated experience. So there's been a push by employers, a very coordinated push to decrease the cost of wages. And that's why insecure work has expanded. And alongside that, our regulatory levers and the systems we need to stamp out these new forms and these new strategies from employers have failed to keep up with them. So I like to think of it as that game you play where the little hippopotamuses, like they pop up and you've got to stamp them down. And our regulatory levers, including unions, have been unable to stop the tide of precarious work. The rise of precarious work has huge consequences for economies like Australia, UK, New Zealand, similar economies, in that hungry workers who are failing to find enough work are always going to are more likely to accept lower wages and more likely to accept insecure work conditions in order to achieve the incomes and access the incomes they need. So it has huge consequences for wages growth across an economy, and with all flow-on effects to the ability of those wages to translate into sales, consumption. Growing debt is a huge problem, household debt. And then, of course, what insecurity does to the lives and the minds of people who have to experience this work. And research has shown for a long time that precarious employment and precarious work does an absolute number on people's heads. It makes it very difficult for people and communities to get by. And really, there's a key role to play for regulations.
Okay, we're back again. Okay, Louis says he's doing good. I'm poking colleagues. Good for you, Louis. He's poking colleagues and managers and HR for an immediate billable project. I'm also applying outside the company for jobs. Good job, Louis. Fabulous. Very happy for you. Really happy for you. It's really difficult to get out of that place, and to get to where you are. So I think, it's just, all the way up. You've just been at the bottom. So, hey, So we're talking about precarious work. She defined what it is. It's all these jobs which are literally the contracts are not, they're not assured. You know what I mean? They are basically non-contractual. They don't have long-term contracts, long-term employment prospects. And this is, like she talked about the post-war, these are what unions apparently used to fight for people to have jobs that will go, that they can depend on all year round, that you can plan around. But now it's very difficult to get that. In the UK, actually, a lot of, I did a study before where I found that a lot of what they call DEI, diversity, equality, those type of people who are non-white. Most of them are actually doing they're in insecure jobs. They're in insecure jobs where they don't even have a contract, by the way. Some of them are not contracted. Most people are not contracted, especially people who are working in healthcare, and that's the majority of them, working in healthcare and working in security and all these kinds of blue collar jobs. Most of them are not tradespeople. They are actually very insecure jobs. These are jobs that don't have benefits. They don't have any sort of, future prospects. They don't have guaranteed pay. They don't also have, they're not unionized, so they're not protected. So you can be fired anytime, literally. So again, they're also short. Usually they're 6 months to maybe 1 year maximum contracts. Sometimes they're no contracts at all. You know, you don't even have a contract. You just told, come and start. And whenever they decide that that's the end, it's over. Like, for example, if you're working for an agency, you're getting a call from an agency, go here, go there, go here, go there. But there's no guarantee that tomorrow you have anything. So you can't qualify for a bank loan. You can't qualify for a house. You can't qualify. In fact, just today I was listening, like, about in the UK currently, there was this gentleman who was talking about the reason why he wants to leave the UK. They're talking about the UK economy literally failing. And the reason he says he wants to leave the UK, there are many reasons. And one of the main reasons is because of the fact that he cannot afford, based on minimum wage that he earns in trades, he cannot afford to rent a decent home for himself, his wife, and his baby, his child. He's got a 6-year-old child. He's Eastern European. He's earning minimum wage of about £15 an hour, working as a builder. And he's maybe now when he calculates, what happens is that he's been living in an apartment with his family, and he wanted a place for his child to play. So that means he had to move somewhere north of London. And because you see, London itself, he's in London and it's very expensive. So he wanted to move north of London, and he found a nice house with a garden. But then the cost of that house was about £1,250, which he could afford. But the trouble is that in order to qualify, his actual income has to be 3 times the amount. 3 times. So 3 times the amount comes to like about, if you calculate, it comes to like about over £40,000 a year. And he didn't qualify for that because his wife is a stay-at-home mom. So he doesn't qualify for living in that house. So they will not give him the house, even if he believes he can rent it. Unlike in Africa here, where you just say, I want this house. Nobody cares where you're working. Nobody even asks you what job you're doing. And they just say, okay, are you ready to pay the rent, 2 months rent and whatever. Nobody cares about, like, very few people really care to see your pay slip or even to calculate whether or not you can afford. So in most of these developed countries, they expect that your rent has to be no more than a third of your income, 30% of your income. So if it goes beyond 30%, they won't even give you the house at all, because it's legal, it's law, by law, because again, it's very difficult to remove you from the house. Yeah. So these are the most of these people are in these kinds of jobs that some of them are even seasonal labor. Seasonal labor is also precarious work. And unfortunately, it's what is growing. And with Trump, as much as, Trump has his positives, let's just put it this way. Let's not talk about whether he's good or bad. The last time that Trump was in power in I think it was 2018, 2017 there was a rise in the number of jobs. But do you know what jobs had risen? The gig economy. Why? Because of COVID, because people were at home. So many people went online and they started working online and working from home, remote jobs. And most of those jobs were what they call the gig economy. The gig economy grew with Trump and it employed so many people. But again, that is insecure work. Gig economy work is insecure work. As opposed to Obama. Obama actually created real tangible jobs. Yeah, that were long-term jobs for people. And also, in addition to that, he had introduced FAFSA, which is something that allowed many people to upskill, to go back to school. FAFSA is a loan program for universities. Anyone who wanted to go to university could apply for FAFSA, and the government would pay a certain proportion, and you as the person self-sponsoring is pay a certain proportion, and then you pay at the end of your education. Once you get a job, then you start repaying the government. So that FAFSA loan was very helpful in helping people to go back and, like what Susan was talking about earlier, upskill themselves and then be able to, find better jobs, longer, more sustainable jobs. So Obama created more jobs, and Trump created more of the gig economy types of jobs. And I think that what's going to happen now with Trump again is that this is what's going to happen. People are going to get more of these gig economy types of jobs because actually with all of these executive orders, there are new jobs that are coming in. Some people are going to be benefiting. There are going to be some new jobs coming in, but the question is, for how long are they going to last? Are they only going to last the period that he's in power, or are these jobs that are long-term? You see, he's going to open up the Guantanamo Bay holding capacity of 30,000 beds. those are new jobs that are coming in, yeah. So those are what I would call short-term jobs. Those are not jobs that I would consider to be long-term jobs. You're not going to be thinking of having that holding place for, indefinitely, as opposed to maybe building on the manufacturing sector, etc. But let's just wait and see what's going to happen. But Susan, let me let you speak here. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to also comment on the precarious work. These are the daily wage earners, the people who earn every day. And actually, the employers, what they've done world over, they've studied the employment law and they've looked for gaps. And so what they do is they employ people daily, and then maybe they'll pay them every day. They'll keep the contracts short enough for them not to be permanent employees. They'll so that they'll say they'll employ you for 2 months, you're out for 1 month, 2 months, out for 1 month, depending on the law of your country. Daily wages they pay so that you fall outside the employees who are entitled to benefits and stuff like that. So they've studied the law and they've found a cheaper way to employ people. They don't want to pay for healthcare. They don't want to pay um, for social security. Like for instance, in Kenya, we have the health security, the social health insurance fund that people are supposed to pay for, and then there's also or it's SHA, and then we have also the NSSF, which is the National Social Security Fund, which you must pay for and stuff like that. So it's deducted by the employer, and they don't want that. And some employer, if you at the end of when you leave, there's a certain amount of money they're supposed to pay you and stuff like that. They don't want to pay those benefits which you're entitled to if you're a permanent employer. So they just find ways around the law to make it cheap labor. And it's true. I think the sort of mental anguish it puts people into, because the work is no less difficult, it's no less absorbing than the people who are permanent employers. You could be doing the same work, but it's just that your contract and the way you're working, how they've decided to engage you is very different. You could be working on commission, say, and that's a very difficult thing. The experience of people working on commission is, for instance, if you go on maternity leave, you don't earn anything. So if you have not built up enough commissions to pay for your maternity leave, then you have a problem. You could be facing poverty or even a more serious problem. So these are the type of challenges that are there. For people doing precarious work. And it's true, I think it's a global problem. I don't think it's just Australia, from what you're saying. We've seen it here, and I'm sure it's happening elsewhere in the world. For instance, Kenya has been exporting exporting people for work, for labor. It's been exporting labor, and the type of jobs people are being exported for are the blue collar jobs. The jobs which some of them you could just say they're literally modern day slaves, because they're working as domestic workers in people's houses. They're treated so badly in those homes because of the difference in culture and stuff like that. They're not given the respect that is deserving. There could be some race issues. There could be other discriminatory issues. I was listening to one lady saying she was being discriminated against because she was very tall. She was born tall. She's a very tall lady, and and what's interesting, they employed her, but she's very tall, and that's a problem, and stuff like that. So she was being harassed. The other thing is in the Kenyans who have gone to the war zones where there's currently civil war or war, Lebanon and such areas. The Kenyans are crying to come back because they've been left in their homes to face to face the music literally. Maybe with the aged people who cannot move quickly, so they've been exposed to complete risk. And I think the Kenyan government was trying to get some of them back because they're pleading to just come home. The type of cruelty, that the stories of people being unalived under suspicious circumstances when they've gone to work in these places, impregnated. They come back to their home countries and they've been molested by their employer, and they come back and they deliver a child from the former employer. Those stories are rampant and they're rife all over the social media. People coming back, they've gone to work and they've come back. When they're working there, their passports have been withheld, literally a control issue. And that's a toxic work environment, the sort of place, we tell them, look, an environment is toxic, get out. That's what you'd say, you tell people, because you can get sick. And when you dread going to work, I know some people, you just dread going to work, absolutely dread. You start, I remember somebody telling me, she dreaded so much going to work. She would touch her different parts of her body to make sure there was no pain anywhere that would send her off to the hospital. Touch her head. Do I have a temperature? Does this arm hurt? Does this arm my back is pain. I need to go and see a doctor. You start looking for all kinds of and she was really funny about it. They say when you start dreading, in fact, all the videos I've watched, when you start dreading going to work, definitely it's a toxic environment. Maybe we'll talk about that.
Let me play something for you. Let me play something for you, Susan, to describe what you're saying. Let me play something here. One sec. Let me play something that it literally describes what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
I'm having a heart attack. I'm having a heart attack.
I started having nosebleeds. I never had a nosebleed.
And I just felt like everything was choking. I was like, what's going on?
I had increased anxiety medicine, depression medicine.
And the doctor came in, he goes, are you under a lot of stress? And I'm like, no. He goes, what do you do? I go, I'm a teacher. He goes, yes, you are.
These are the stories of 6 North Texas teachers. We represent different grade levels. We represent different ISDs. They do have one thing in common. They all recently quit.
It takes a toll.
I could not do it anymore.
The job can feel like a calling.
Growing up, my mom was a teacher. And in fact, she was my teacher in 1st and 4th grade.
Amy Rodenroth followed her mother's footsteps. Derek Spencer saw the chance to make a difference.
There wasn't many African-American males in elementary.
Myri Ann Gable was inspired.
Well, my high school math teacher, she looked like me. She had poise. She just gave me a chance.
Together, they have a combined 140 years of experience.
Raise your hand if you feel like you made a difference in kids' lives.
So stepping away wasn't exactly easy.
I mean, I can't do that anymore, but that's where my heart is.
And I just cried because I thought, that's my last group of kids.
The Texas Education Agency reports more than 13% of the state's teachers, nearly 50,000 of them, left the profession last year, the highest number on record. There's more than just one reason, this group told us, for the exodus. But a good starting point is the money, or better said, the lack of it.
And I know I didn't get into it for the money. I know I didn't get into education for the money. But I sure thought it would be a lot easier than having to hold down a couple of jobs to maintain.
The average starting salary for a teacher in Texas is just over $45,000. As they gain experience, salaries increase, but not by much. Veteran Texas teachers make on average just $20,000 more than novices.
I've talked to my ex-students who are graduating and who are going into college, and they're like, I go, so what are you going to do? Well, I would be a teacher, but the main things that are the drawbacks, money, they can't survive. They can't survive on what they're getting paid, and the retirement, when they retire, like, I know you know this, I'm retired, and I laughed at what I was going to get for my retirement. Like, I literally burst out laughing.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott last year commissioned a teacher vacancy task force to look at how to improve teacher recruitment and retention. Topping its list of recommendations released this February was a significant increase in overall teacher salaries.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, let me stop sharing that. But Susan, you get the point. You see, they're getting heart attacks, they're getting anxiety. So I can just imagine, what teachers have to go through. And by the way, I have another one for you, Susan, before you even start again. Wait just a second. I want to show you guys something else, please. Just give me a little bit of time to show you this one. What teachers have to go through, literally. I mean, it's so sad. It's so shocking to imagine what teachers have to deal with. Really shocking. Here we are. Let's see if we can see this. Can you see this? Let me play it.
I got the video right here. Even with that, parents still might not believe you. It must be y'all, because my baby don't act like that at home. For your mama. Other student ain't even flinch, because he used to it. Because I'm feeling sick. She must not be scared of her mama. 1, 2. You lucky these cameras watching what I do. Y'all get up and mom. Please. Tear it up, it ain't mine. So you like soccer. I hope you stomp your toe. Did she tell y'all to get out the room? Thank you, sugar. That's your little Chick-fil-A worker right there. She the only one to listen. Now you like volleyball. Get out the class, everybody, get out the class. You done gave y'all instructions like 5 times. Everybody, get out the class. 6 times. Where you think you going? So you think you get to act the fool and go free? The kids know you can't touch them. But they can touch us, though. That's that close to going to jail sound. I know this ain't nobody try to stop her. It's off to the office to get you a lollipop. I got the video right here. Even with that, parents still might not believe you. It must be y'all, because my baby don't.
Yeah, guys. Yeah. And Louis says, my brother was a teacher for 2 years, and there was a lot of alcohol during the weekend. No, where there was a lot of alcohol, during the weekends. And my sister, what did you say there? And my sister was taken to court by a student's mom when she was teaching. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
very
Wow.
precarious,
Wow.
very precarious in the US.
And you notice in Kenya, they're actually recruiting Kenyans to go and teach in those schools. Yeah, they're trying to
Yeah,
get international teachers from outside. They're trying to get
yeah,
teachers from Kenya, from other places, and many teachers have gone. And I was always saying, they were so excited to be leaving their well-behaved children here in Kenya to go to those schools to see how they survive. But the
yeah,
pay, the pay and everything. They get free flights, they get, good pay, they get accommodation, they get so many benefits. They'll do anything for you because they know what you're going to end up in. A lot of those
yeah,
schools are very challenging. And I think the UK schools are even harder than I think US schools, believe it or not.
yeah. I
Children in the
think the
UK
teachers,
are very
mhm.
difficult.
The teachers suffer burnout. They suffer burnout, literally burnout. It's not just about the pay; it's about the burnout, the mental exhaustion of trying to um, there's so many rules, there's so many don'ts, and then of course there's the overwhelming work they have to do, marking the books and marking the papers, writing reports. Is quite a job. It is quite a job. And the most interesting thing, if you ask me, I think, in my view, the most respectable job in the world is being a teacher, because that's where we all came through. We were taught by somebody, and they deserve the accolades. In fact, they should be among the highest paid people, but sadly they're not. Um, sadly they're not. And a teacher here in Kenya, you'd say a teacher can never get lost, because you've taught some people, and you go and stand somewhere, and people say, I was taught by that lady. She was the teacher in my school. She was this or that. And stop. Doesn't matter where you go, as long as they're people from your country, somebody might recognize you. Walk in the streets of London or New York or Boston or wherever. So it's really sad to see them. They're just completely exhausted. They're just completely. I've seen it. I've seen them. They're completely exhausted. It's quite a demanding job, and perhaps the work environment is very toxic, and I think that is part of why they get so exhausted. And um, the system in the US, perhaps there was a lot of micromanagement, because they had to adhere to all these rules that were there, with all these how to handle the children, how you must speak to them, even when they're unruly and rude and nasty. You heard in that video that guy saying, "Oh, he doesn't behave like that at home. The child doesn't behave like that at home." But can you explain, for instance, why there's mass shooting? What is the child doing at home to come and now shoot shoot up the school, shoot students, shoot a teacher? The parents are not watching what's happening in the home. The child is preparing. That's where the preparation to do the mess is usually. So there's I came across some signs of a toxic workplace, and one of them is micromanagement. That is the lack of trust, constant criticism. The teachers actually operate under constant criticism and oversight and all that. So they start doubting their ability. The authorities are very overbearing. You can be taken to court. You heard Louis saying his sister was taken to court, over something, maybe, whatever it was. And they're completely exhausted because of that type of treatment. And then the other one is, we know, for instance, the teachers who have left, how have they been treated by the school authorities? What treatment did they receive? They're not supposed to talk about their resignations. Are they excluded? Do they become pariahs? Are they ignored? Then the third one is a poor work-life balance. And this is something that has really affected the teachers, because you don't have time for yourself. You have to mark papers, you have to teach, you have to adhere to all these millions of rules that were coming up. You remember, during the Biden administration, I don't know what Trump is going to change, but all these books they had to read. The teachers could not question a child's decision, even when legally on other things they're not competent to make any of those decisions. It was so constraining. A friend of mine was telling me a story, and she said, in her class, this was in Kenya, a student asked her a question which would be deemed to be controversial. And she recognized this. So she had to find a way to avoid answering that question altogether. Because if she said anything, it would become, now a case, to become a case. We've seen situations where the children have tried to trick the teacher so that the teacher can get into problems. For instance, talking about God, talking about God. In some places, that's not allowed. So they, try to trigger that sort of situation. And then we have, so the poor work-life balance, you have no time really for your own things. You have your own family, your marking papers, this or that, parents, teachers meetings, and then you get told off, by all these parents for not doing the right thing. And there's lack of empathy. There's unrealistic expectations that you should be available all the time. So this really is, so even if you are sick or you have suffered some loss or something like that, you don't get the support of the school or the institution, the workplace. And then the other thing is employees fear giving feedback. I know that, in this circumstances, the employees are afraid to give feedback. They're afraid to say, this is not right. This is not, you're not treating people the right way. We don't have any time to rest. You can't give us all these books to mark all the time. These children are very unruly, and maybe we need a policeman in the classroom, not a teacher, because they're
Exactly. Louis
that's
says here, Louis is
Mhm.
saying that my brother quit teaching after he crashed his car. He fell asleep behind the wheel due to lack of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Teaching is actually a dangerous job. 1,000 ways to crash your car. Start teaching. fall
is
asleep
very
behind the wheel.
stressful. It is
Yeah,
very, you
I
have
come
to
from a
be
family of
smiled.
teachers, by the way, and I was expected to be a teacher, and I used to say, I ain't going into that. Nope. I don't think I could do it. Nope, 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 nope. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
It's actually
It's not
a
easy.
very rewarding job. I think it's very rewarding when you see
There's a
your
lot of teachers
children.
in the world. Yeah, it must be rewarding.
Yeah.
I did
Then
it for
the
little
other,
children, but that's about it. Yeah.
yeah. The other thing is, okay, employees fear giving feedback because of the hostility from the administration or the institutional leadership. So the clue is when passionate employees become quiet, that is a sign of toxicity. For instance, the teachers will not be able to speak up about anything. I'm using the teachers as an example because of the video you've shown. Yeah, they're quiet. They're not saying anything. You can't. You're too afraid that you might end up in a court of law or even sacked. Actually, there was a case where this teacher was sacked, but she won the case because she was being compelled to do something or say something that was against her faith, her Christian faith, and she won the case. And so when you find people going silent about things which they clearly
Probably
do not agree,
being made to call a boy who is sexually boy, you know,
yeah,
a girl,
yeah,
you know,
it's
using a different pronoun. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think now with Trump that is over. So let me just show Susan. Allow me to show one more video because we were talking about now fake jobs, and then we'll be concluding, guys. We'll be concluding. It's been 1 hour and 11 minutes. So let's just show this video, and then Susan will continue to express. So, what is the rise of these fake listings out there? Yeah, it's very concerning. By the way, guys, do you know that there are many jobs out there that are fake? Yeah, they're not real. Listen to this.
John Doe. He's in his early 20s and eager to jump into the workforce. He sees a job listing that looks perfect to him. So he brushes up his resume, he writes an awesome cover letter, applies, and then waits and waits. So after a month or so, he actually sees the same job posting relisted, which makes him super frustrated. John isn't alone. Many people are frustrated by applying to these kinds of jobs that seem to have no intention of hiring anyone.
If you are in the position of trying to find a new job, of course, you don't want to waste your time applying for these ghost jobs.
But it turns out all those open job postings that you see online might not even be real.
Ghost jobs are a phenomenon that have existed for a long time, but they've come to light much more in recent years, and they've become much more of a significant issue in the job market.
4 in 10 companies posted fake job listings in 2024, and 3 in 10 are currently advertising for a role that isn't real, according to a May survey from Resume Builder.
The rise of ghost job posting definitely points to a cooling in the economy. We are seeing that employers are more hesitant to make that hire, and it just points to the fact that demand for talent is slowing down.
Here's why ghost jobs are on the rise.
Ghost jobs are actually not scams. They're from real companies, but they are openings that don't actually exist. That company is not actually hiring for that role at this moment in time. They might be interested in hiring for that role in the future, or maybe they were hiring for it, but due to budget cuts, those roles were closed or put on hold.
A ghost job is essentially a job that remains open online and never gets filled. The occurrence of ghost jobs has increased quite dramatically over the past 5 years. We're seeing a decline in the rate of hires to job postings, and that rate has basically halved over the past 5 years. So whereas in 2019 we saw 8 hires per 10 job postings, we are now seeing 4 hires per 10 job postings, which of course is quite a dramatic drop. This is a pretty worrying development because it just softens the signal of what a job posting really means and whether there is truly a hiring intention behind that from the employer point of view.
I think we're seeing a lot of ghost jobs lately for the same reason that I think a lot of people keep their Tinder profiles up, even if they're not actively looking for a relationship. It's because we like to keep our options open for, whether it's a good or a bad thing. Companies are no different. Companies know that talent is not always available when they are ready to hire. So they want to be able to attract applications from potentially great candidates, even if they're not right now able to give that person a job.
Because of market visibility, if they are regularly listing their job openings, that will enhance the company's image, potentially showing them as a growing and thriving organization. And maybe that's a signal to investors or clients or competitors that their company is expanding the brand perception.
Market research. Some companies, they have no idea what is a salary, what are the skill sets in demand. So they probably are posting to get that data. What are you expecting as a salary if you want to be in that role in this industry? So that's why they're collecting those data so that they can build a total compensation package and build the key performance indicator and net promoter scores for the companies if they really don't know how the recruiting works. So maybe it's from market insights to go into the future, but that does not benefit the job seekers at all. And that's such a bad employer branding.
That's really manipulative.
Okay. Yeah, it really is. It really is. But you will not believe how many ghost jobs there are. There are platforms like in the UK, like Indeed, okay? And Indeed, I saw that there was a study. A majority of those jobs, can I say over 50% of those jobs are not real. They don't exist. I actually did some research on that, and I discovered that people are applying for jobs. Not only that, you can even be called for an interview for a job that doesn't exist. That's the worst thing. People go for the first interview, they go for the second interview, and then the employee ghosts you completely. You never hear from them again. Can you imagine going in for an interview? Why? Because of that market research that they're doing. They're collecting data at your expense. Honestly, to me, I think it's criminal. It's very unfair. It's criminal because this is where you hear people say, I've applied for 200 jobs, 300 jobs, and I've only had like 2 interviews and no success. 2 interviews, 200
that's
applications.
toxic.
Those are things that never used to happen in our days, Susan. This is too much. This is too much.
It's actually
It used to be
toxic.
once a job is advertised, it's real, it exists, it's there. You compete for it, you most likely will get it if you are qualified for it. But now it's completely a different. I think it's really unfair. It's playing games on people's minds. It's playing with, especially young people. I feel so sad for young people, and not just young people, even people who are like over the age of 40, 50s, 60s. People are having a hard time finding work. Gen X's, boomers, people are still looking for work. It doesn't mean that just because you've reached a certain age that you no longer have to pay your rent, you no longer have health needs, you no longer need to eat, you no longer have expenses. One still needs a job to keep you also, financially secure and also at the same time mentally and emotionally, okay. And if you don't have a job, it means that you're not worthy. You have no worth to the society. It makes you feel as if you have nothing to contribute to the society, and it can start affecting your mental health. So it's really unfair when people actually, all these employers are advertising positions that don't even exist. But that is the case. And that's one thing that employees need to be aware about. I think it's also happening in the Kenyan economy and an African economy because you see, it's just like a bank. I think employers are like banks. Banks like to have your, that's why the banks are keeping so many accounts that are dormant there. Why do banks keep dormant accounts or accounts that are not active? Yeah, just to show that they have customers, to show their customer base. That's basically it. Why do why do employers advertise jobs that don't exist? Just to show that they're in business. They're competing outside there. So basically, it's very important for one to know how to identify jobs that are real and jobs that are, ghost jobs. So I saw a video of a lady who was trying to explain, how to, distinguish between the two types of jobs. But anyway, she was also talking about, how, how toxic the work environment or looking for a job is in Kenya, and how it can feel so overwhelming. So I'm going to play you like 2 videos, and then Susan can respond because they're short. Okay, these are TikTok videos, they're short. This is a Kenyan lady talking about how to spot a fake job advertisement. This is her view, and I thought it was quite interesting. Let's just share it and see whether it's true.
How to know if a job advert is fake in the sense that it doesn't exist or it's already filled, and whatever is happening is just a formality. First of all, you're going to want to watch out for an email address that does not have the organization's name. That is something I think you know. So if a job is advertised and the contact email or where you're supposed to be sending your application is personxxs@gmail, at Outlook, at Yahoo, at all those other things, it means that's a fake job advert. It doesn't exist. Number 2 is if the job description is vague, if it's not clear, like it's just that there's so many words not describing a specific role. Yeah, instead of
she says if the job email address is Outlook at whatever, if it's a strange email address, it's probably fake. If the job description is vague, it's probably fake.
Instead of making it clear that they want an accountant, they're also an accountant. They make it look like we want a superstar, we want someone who can work under this, and all those kind of things. It means it's potentially fake, and they're trying to collect email addresses. That is the same as location. Right now, there's an outbreak of remote work. So if a job is
Okay, so she says that sometimes when the job descriptions are too ambitious, where they expect you to do everything and make you look like a superstar, it's probably a fake job. And now she's talking about remote work.
Overselling their, them being a work from home opportunity, when they're overselling themselves, it is potentially a fake job. Another one, if there's urgency, if a job is advertised today and it's required to be, like, you're supposed to be starting work on Monday, there's a high sense of urgency, there's a rush. And that is also something that you need to understand. The interview process of any given company determines the kind of place you'll be working at. If there's a lot of pressure during the interview process, it means working in that place, you'll be experiencing a lot of pressure. They don't need to tell you. That is something you need to be able to observe anyway. If there's a sense of urgency in the recruitment process, it means they've already gotten someone they want to fill that position. And
oh, so if there's a sense of urgency to fill the position, it means that they're just interviewing you as just part of protocol. They already have identified somebody, and if they say that they want to fill the position as soon as possible, most likely they already have a candidate, and they're just doing what they have to do.
Whatever they're doing in the recruitment is just a formality.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if the salary of that given job is quoted in the job advert, I know most people want to know the salary as soon as possible, but I assure you, if the advert specifies that we want an accounts assistant and the salary is 45K, it's a con. It's a fake job advert. Yeah.
Okay, in Kenya we have a lot of we have a lot of job adverts that actually indicate the salary, and it's unusual. But if you go to the UK, most of the jobs actually indicate the salary, and so those are not fake. But in Kenya, yes, many of the jobs that indicate the salary are fake jobs, or jobs that just don't exist, or bad jobs. Bad jobs. I've seen that.
If in as much as like the recruiters who decided to give information about salary early enough, they normally do it after the first interview. But if a job advert shows the salary of the specific salary, yeah, I'm not talking about a range. Some recruiters specify a range. The range is from 100 to 200. But if the recruiter specified that salary is 45K, that means it's a con game. Also, you might want to watch out for if only one individual is involved in the recruitment process. Say it's a big company, like say Kengen, yeah, but there's only one person or two people who are involved in that recruitment process. It's potentially a fake job advert. Also, if someone reaches out to you after you made the application and starts giving you information about what they expect to be said in the interview, or you're going to be called for an interview, you need to find the following documents and all that kind of stuff, it means it's a fake job advert. Also, normally when you get hints,
I guess what she's saying here is that if an employer shows too much interest in you at the very beginning and starts giving you some inside stories, some tips on how to pass the interview, or or questions that you should be prepared to answer, it's usually quite fake. And if it's only one person or two people and it's a big company and it's only one or two people, honestly, really, it's a maze.
Of an advert. Like if someone forwards you an advert for a job, go to that company's website. Let's say it's Kengen. Again, go to Kengen, go check career, see is there a vacancy. If someone is showing you that there's a vacancy for an accountant at Kengen, but on the website it's not shown, on their LinkedIn it's not shown, on their social media it's not shown, it means that's a fake job advert. Let's be careful. Let's watch out. Let's let our desperation not make us fall into the hands of bad people, because everyone is searching, and even these bad people, they're also looking. So don't let your desperation.
Yeah, so people are out there taking advantage of people's desperation, literally. Yeah, so people are desperate for jobs, and and the thing is, in Kenya, they'll also ask you for money. Yeah, they'll sometimes ask you for money to secure an appointment. To maybe they'll even just offer you the job and say, you don't even have to come for any interview, you just have to pay, and we'll just give you the job. Unfortunately, that actually is happening even in a political class. Yeah, many people, especially they say cabinet secretaries and people at that level, many of them have been accused of having bribed or paid their way into those positions. And that is just not the Kenya government only. It's also in the US. We've also heard of stories, whether it's true or not, that ambassadorial positions sometimes are for sale. Like if you want to become an ambassador to Kenya, that position is actually for sale. It goes to the highest bidder. So that's the problem with some of these positions. There's no real, there's no equality in there. Yeah. Susan, let me let you speak, please.
I think that was a very useful lesson because of the ghost jobs, and even to find out what their ulterior motives are. And even the two videos, actually, I was just thinking about how they're trying to collect data from you. I thought that was highly manipulative, making you fill in what you believe to be a genuine job and apply for it, and then they're just trying to collect data. The other thing I found was the attracting applications from candidates, even though that job is not available. So it's like they're trying to also build a database without being honest about it. I remember somebody shared an experience with me how they applied for a job long time ago. Many years ago. It was not done online. You actually had to write, it was a handwritten letter and a job application and all that. And they applied for this job, and they took the job application was taken in good time to the designated place. About a year after that job application was submitted, that person got a call and was told to go for an interview because that job, the application that had been submitted was misplaced. It was misplaced. So about 1 year later, the person was told, "Oh, I'm sorry, your job application was misplaced. Please come for an interview." So based on what we've learned here from the two two speakers on ghost jobs, it was definitely that was their motive was different. It was a dishonest motive and one that was questionable. And the interesting thing was that it was quite a reputable company that did that. So perhaps they wanted to put that information in the database, for purposes of future employment, or even to collect data. Because
Louis is actually saying, Louis is saying, my company is posting open positions on LinkedIn, but I checked on my company's internal job portal and the positions do not exist. Jeez. And that's true, by the way, because you see, even I myself, by the way, to be honest, I have applied for jobs on LinkedIn and never heard anything from them. Nothing at all. Zero. Nothing. The jobs are there, they're posted. But you apply, you submit an application, and you never even get acknowledgement of your application. Or maybe you get an acknowledgement and then you hear nothing from them. This is happening a lot, even at the UN, by the way. It's happening with these big, huge organizations. Yeah. They're just collecting data. And you see, they're collecting data to also formulate new positions, to see what skills are in the market so that they can also add them to their portfolios. And I've actually seen that some of the applications that I've made to some of these big organizations that I used to work for, I actually started to notice that the employers were actually copying word for word my description of my qualifications and experience. They just copy word for word, and it's not just mine. I can just see. I'm like, that's my CV. What do you mean? You've put up a job. You've actually written a JD with my CV. I tell you, that is like crazy. Human resources. Hey, I fear them, man. Fear human resources. Fear them, or next to women, fear human resources. Personnel.
Most worrying is when they put
exactly what you're saying. Jeez,
do you remember? Do you remember this comment? We are equal opportunity employers. DEI. We are equal opportunity employers. Oh my gosh! You find that on the adverts in the newspaper.
You have equal opportunity for discrimination, my friend. That's all it is. You have equal opportunity to be discriminated and thrown and discarded. And that's it. Yeah. Good for you. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, this setting up where they've got this, setting up actually interviews with people, and they really already know who they want to employ. And then so they try to get high profile enough competitors, especially the public jobs. Like some of the jobs you see them advertising on, like in Kenya, we have the certain jobs, the interviews are conducted on TV. You can watch it on TV, like for judges and certain high level posts like the cabinet secretaries, not the cabinet secretaries, the vetting, you see it on TV. The judges, the application, part of the application, the vetting was actually done on TV. I think you saw that. And the tendency is, is they already have an idea who they want to employ. So they try to get a pool of people who are competitive enough to fool the public that it is actually a genuine process. And that is so.
It's true, because it's very strange the kind of person that they actually eventually go for. Because unfortunately, if they get somebody who's so qualified and does really well in those interviews, and then they don't even get picked, the public is outraged. The public is outraged. And they're like, how come? How did you pick this person? How did this person get the job instead of this one? Yeah.
Yeah. But
can I show another video, Susan? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me show the last one before now we wind up. Yeah, this is just about acknowledging how it feels not to have a job, Same lady, quite interesting, I thought I want to share with you here.
You probably lost your job. You probably,
Hold on.
You see, nobody talks about the shame that comes from being unemployed. Yeah. Sometimes when you're hanging out with people, let's say you're not employed or you don't have anything going on. Yeah. There's normally that shame that comes with it. You feel like you're not good enough. Probably you shouldn't even be speaking your mind. Sometimes even people deep down in your subconscious, you're better than those people. You're smart than those people. You feel shame. You feel like you shouldn't be expressing yourself just because you're not employed. Today I want to talk to someone who is probably going through the unemployment phase. You probably lost your job. You probably, never found a job that is, or you're probably holding a job that is below par. Something you're better than this, but you're holding it. There's no need to feel ashamed. There's a reason why you're going through that. I know. For non-believers, you might not relate, but there's a reason why you're going through that. You're learning a lesson that you might not learn if you keep hiding in shame simply because you're not employed. Employment could be something that you're seeking, but it's not the only way. Yeah. In the meantime, find something that you can do. Find something that you can do. Go back to school if you must, if you can. start a business. Yeah. Find a hobby, find something that you can do, something that reinforces your value. Yeah. Because employment alone does not determine someone's value. Yeah. Getting a job is not, over time, having talked to people who are employed in places, personally, the places I have always wanted to work at. Yeah. But having spoke to people who work in those places over time, I changed my mind about it. Sometimes whatever it is that you want is not something that you want. It's because you have an illusion of how you expect it to be. Sometimes those are not things that you want. Yeah. And once, probably the universe is protecting you from experiencing those experiences, because don't let your value be so much tied into something that you are hoping to achieve.
Wow. Wow. Isn't that powerful? Yeah. Like sometimes the universe is protecting you from experiencing that job that you really want. And that's really true. Because once you start talking to the people who are working in those organizations, or you study how people work there, the toxicity in those environments, if you work from the outside with them for just a short time, I've worked with so many organizations because I've been a consultant for a long time. And I go in there and by the time I am there 2 weeks, I'm saying, hey, thank you, God, I'm not in this organization. Yeah. It's my job to evaluate, to monitor, to do what. But I am grateful that I'm not a full-time employee here. Because what I'm seeing in terms of employee relations and employer-employee relationships is very toxic, very difficult. And you find that many people in those organizations are ill. They're sick. They're actually sick. Many of them take sick time off a lot. Many of them are sick. They're ill. Long-term illnesses, serious illnesses. And usually I believe they're work-related or environment-related. Yeah, the toxicity of work is not a joke, man. That cortisone level that is, high all the time at these offices. Very bad.
Yeah, I was looking at some in the course of my research, some of the questions you should ask when you're looking at, taking up employment in somewhere, and then somebody's offering you a job, or some of the research you need to do. And some of the questions you need to answer is, what is the management style? Because if it's micromanagement, if it is, a style, a type of system where it allows bullying and stuff like that, you need to keep off. So you need to find out what is the management style. The second one, does it support professional development? Because we all need that. When you take a job, you really need that opportunity to grow. And then what challenges is the company experiencing? So for instance, the first case that we looked at, where the lady was working in aviation, definitely with the restructuring that was taking place and stuff like that, maybe at the time of entry it was not there, but imagine somebody who's now looking for a job in that institution now. These are the questions they'll be asking: is what challenges is it experiencing? It's restructuring, it's downsizing, it's doing all that type of stuff. And the other one is, what is the feedback process? Do they allow their employees to give feedback on service, customer care, on some of the challenges, management level or administrative challenges, or handling of this or that, and how they deal with the employee complaints or customer complaints? Is it, are there integrity issues and stuff like that? Is there harassment in the office? Is there some sort of harassment? And by the way, sexual harassment goes both ways. It's women and men. Yeah, women are sexually harassing men, and men are sexually harassing women. I mean, it's happening both ways. And then, how do you acknowledge employees' success? So those are like 5 questions people should look out for when they're trying to get into a place and apply for a job. Like that young lady said, she discovered later that was not the type of workplace culture she wanted to engage in. And these are the questions you need to ask. And so it's important for you to do your research as much as possible. Don't just look at the outer, all that glitters is not gold. You know that saying? Don't look at, the outside and not really take time to find out about the culture of an institution. It can actually be very, very, very destructive. Like, for instance, things like gossiping, things like bullying, things like office politics and favoritism. There could be that happening in that organization. So we don't know whether this young lady, the first lady, the one who was suddenly found herself out of work, or whether there was office politics at play and there was favoritism. So some employees, who were handled differently from others.
Yeah.
And then there's no room for mistakes and some of those challenges. And then again, there's
True.
issue of little appreciation or recognition, because if she was there for 11 years and she definitely was doing some good job, some good
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And then excessive absenteeism, high employee turnover, where you find that
Oh, yes,
yeah,
yes.
in fact,
When my son was
yeah,
looking for a job, that's one of the biggest things that he said. That's one of the major things he was looking at. He wanted to see that employees had been there for a long time.
yeah,
So, and he really identified the job, that type of a job. And when you talk about challenges in the company, such as restructuring, let me tell you a tiny story, a very short story. I actually got a job in the UK working for a big NGO, big job, big name, big title, blah, blah. But guess what? They did not tell me is that they were undergoing restructuring. So guess what happened when I arrived? I worked there for a little while anyway. And because I was used to being a consultant, I wasn't going to, tolerate too much. So I was only there for less than a year. But what I found? One of the employees was actually on a hunger strike outside of the building. He had been on a hunger strike for the past 6 months. Can you imagine? You're always walking in through, and yeah, against the organization that you've just been hired in. Yeah. There's nothing worse than getting into that kind of environment as a new employee. Because now everybody's shivering, they're wondering about their jobs. There's a new person on board. She's been brought in from another country. That's even worse. She's been headhunted from outside of the country. She's coming from Africa. Yeah. And now she's sitting there and she's taken this job. And meanwhile, the company is restructuring. And when we talk about restructuring, we're talking about downsizing. Yeah, they've already lost so many employees. And then you've come in as a new employee in that environment. It's a very tense and very difficult environment in which to work. So, yeah, there was somebody on a hunger strike for a long time. It was a big issue. The company was being sued literally. I don't know what they had done wrong. Yeah.
yeah. And when this whatever high turnover, somebody was saying that their record is 1 day. They work for 1 day, and they couldn't take it. They couldn't take it anymore. The cliques, the poor communication, poor listening skills. You have a really sarcastic boss or manager, somebody who's so rude and
Yes.
nasty.
Yeah.
You're
You
even
even have
afraid to.
deliberate sabotage. I've
Yes,
experienced
they
that.
sabotage.
Where they
Mhm.
hide documents, they hide information
Yes,
from you. They hide
yes,
documents. So you're there
yes.
looking for them and you can't find them. And then guess what?
Mm,
You go to IT and IT tells you, actually, it is there in somebody's file. If you want to find out if somebody has information, be close friends with the IT managers, especially if you're using things like SharePoint and things like that, because you are
yeah,
entitled. If you're entitled to be on the SharePoint, on Teams, on things like that, that is where people actually hide information away from colleagues because they want to shine. And it's really bad because in the end you end up being blamed for not delivering, and it's very
yeah,
difficult for you to snitch on somebody who's your boss who's hiding information from you. So
yeah,
you make decisions without full information. It's very, very bad. It's very toxic. In fact, a lot of people are quitting the workspace. Yeah, offices especially, because of that toxicity. We really
yeah.
need to we really need to address it. It's a big issue.
Mm,
And a lot of people are not even looking forward to go working in offices anymore. They're done. They're totally done. They're doing totally different things from
yeah,
what they were really qualified to do. Yeah.
yeah. And unhealthy competition. What you were talking about, the sabotage, the unhealthy competition. So they work against each other, and it's really, really wrong for that to happen. When bosses make you compete against one another. And that's when even deleting of work on computers and work that you've done, a lot of work is done, and there's no growth, and then you have no motivation.
They can even give you say, well, in companies where they give you equipment, you can be given equipment that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or that's faulty. I tell you, man, the tricks these people are up to, it's amazing. Or they don't let you know having events. Yeah, let's say they're having office events, they don't let you know. You're not even aware.
Do you know, I experienced that. I was a director in a certain company, and usually after the meetings, the board meetings or the AGM, we'd have you're supposed to have lunch together. So what happened this particular time? They did not invite me for lunch. They did not even tell me that there was lunch. After the meeting, we said, okay, just go. So I had left. Then one of the other, the younger, because some of us were younger than others. So one of the younger directors, and I was the only female, by the way, one of them, they called me and asked me, where are you? I said, well, I've gone home. And said, oh, you didn't come for lunch? I said, nobody told me there was any lunch. I was not invited for the lunch. Says, oh, are you far away? I said, well,
yes.
I've almost reached my house. He says, okay, there was lunch. And in fact, he was very shocked to hear that nobody had told me there was lunch.
Yeah.
Because
it's very embarrassing
mind,
and humiliating, especially when you're director yourself.
Yeah, in his mind, the information had been passed. And then the other thing that happened again was we were going for a board meeting out of the country. And then they got first class tickets. I got an economy ticket.
Look at that. Look at that.
So what happened? I remember I told you I was the only female. I was the only female.
Imagine. So all the guys got the first class tickets and the lady had to go to the economy.
Then let me tell you. So, okay, about the lunch, me missing the lunch, they blamed me for not going for the lunch. And yet they did not invite me or tell me there was lunch. At the meeting, they're supposed to announce we will now proceed for lunch at such and such a place. And I hung around.
Should even be on the agenda.
Yeah, nobody told me anything. Then now this other time we were going out of the country. So I had an economy ticket, and they had all the men had the male directors had first class tickets, right? Wow. And then when we arrived now at our destination, when we met now, we'd gone through customs at our place of destination. So they started asking me, why didn't you come to the lounge, to the first class lounge? Why didn't you? I said, I didn't have a first class ticket. I had so they were blaming me now for missing a conversation, a meeting they had in the first class lounge.
This is really crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Toxic.
They were blaming me. They were blaming me for missing that conversation. Oh, and, so of course I got the abridged version of that conversation when they'd already concluded. But luckily there was one of the directors was younger than the others, and he asked questions. He said, first of all, I want to understand why Susan is traveling economy and we are traveling differently. Why are we traveling differently? He was not happy about that at all. And then, he noticed there was some, what do you call it, sabotage. They were trying to sabotage. Yeah, and it was very, very different. And then what they did, they did, because of course they were much bigger than I was, I'm not very tall, much bigger than I. They were striding off, and I was literally running after them wherever.
You can laugh now in hindsight, but that time is not funny at all. No. Susan, I worked for this organization. What you went through was even worse. Now, let's talk about racism in the workplace. Yeah. Hoping that YouTube will be tolerant to this kind of chat is because where I used to work in an NGO, what happened is that, and by this time I had actually left, but these are my colleagues telling me, thank God you're no longer here. Guess what happened? Yeah. We had a workshop outside of Nairobi, and one of these nice retreats. Kenya is a touristic country, so it's a beautiful retreat area. Guess what they did? The management decided to split people into races. It was terrible, terrible. So everybody who was non-black had a room on their own, and all the black employees had to share a room. Doesn't matter what category, where, what level you are, whether you're management, whether you're what, doesn't matter. So everybody who was non-white, doesn't matter what level you are, you have a room on your own, and everybody else. It was terrible. These are the kinds of things that make workplaces very toxic. And we're talking about the negative things about workspaces, but there are also very positive things that you can also find in workspaces. You can find workspaces that are very family oriented, that have a camaraderie ship, have it depends on the culture of the leader. The team leader is so important. They're the person that sets up the culture of the organization. So if you're the kind of team leader who encourages your staff to come back and snitch on each other, then that is the environment that you're going to get. And actually, a lot of this is actually encouraged by the team leaders. The team leaders are the ones who actually send workers to go snitch on each other. Yeah, to police each other. And that's the thing. And if you're the kind of leader that doesn't tolerate that, then you end up having a very good environment, which is, where people want to stay and work for you. And that's really good because, again, training new staff in all the time also takes you back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it affects your ability to even achieve anything, to have any sort of impact with your work, because you're always being dragged behind by people having to learn new things.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the workplace bully, and there's quite a lot of literature on that, constant criticism, putting down, exclusion and isolation. They're very good at making sure you're excluded and isolated, and it's to exert control, sabotaging your work, making it very difficult for you to work, withholding information like you talked about, verbal and physical abuse, spreading rumors and gossip about you, unreasonable work expectations, making deadlines which you can't possibly meet with high quality work. So they're setting you up literally for failure, like you mentioned. Significant increase in your workload and within a certain, a different deadline from everybody else. So you're working longer hours and then everybody else trying to just meet your quota. Actually, there'd be more than your quota. Not giving you credit for your work and actually usurping that, taking the credit. I'm sure
That's the worst.
Many people have experienced that. Yeah, they just change the name and it's the work, or even remove your name completely.
Yes.
And they remove your name completely and it's
right
just their name. Yes, and they're very good at such people are so skillful. Even if they're asked to answer questions, they'll make sure that you are present to answer the questions. And so you're highly manipulated. And the other one is where you feel so stressed and anxious and you dread going to work. So you have the palpitations, the heart attack, the leg pain, you can't psychosomatic illnesses. And then something on bullying. Something on bullying it's very subjective because people feel bullied at different levels and we respond to it differently. So there are degrees of it and our responses are also different. So some of the things they advise is that you should report it to person in authority, unless of course the bully is the person in authority.
The person in authority is usually the bully. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think there's
I remember working in a restaurant. Forget about even like professional job. Okay. I decided, I'm done. Let me go work for a restaurant. Simple, easy thing. And I'm there. I enjoy it. I like anything to do with entertainment. I'm very flexible. In the UK, any job, a job is a job. You just want to just go spend your 8 hours and go and get some money. So I went there and I worked in a restaurant and I was doing just helping in the restaurant. It was a cafeteria actually for a very big organization. So they were all coming in, flooding in at lunchtime, and you're given your stand. You're standing over here. This is where you're serving. And then at the end, you go and you clear tables and stuff. So I tell you, the supervisor is yelling my name across this whole dining area where there are hundreds of people sitting and eating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maureen! I'm like, whoa, I'm not used to that. I don't want that embarrassment. It's very, very embarrassing because we already know our jobs. Everybody knows, you're supposed to these are your tables, you deal with those tables. You don't have to yell at somebody all the way across just so that you can exert your power and dominance. It's just crazy. I never understood it. And I went back to her and I said, please, if you want to talk to me, just wave. I'll come down. I'm looking at you. I'll wave. Just wave at me. And she did like it. She didn't like it. She didn't like that. And here's another thing. Cruelty. Cruelty is very bad. There's one time I worked in, since I was in hospitality, I also working in one of these very exclusive golf clubs. Yeah. And I was now supervising the dining area. And I happened to go outside when it was raining, because that's the UK. That's in the UK. Yeah, it rains all the time. So they have a lounge outside, a place where you can sit outside. So I went outside and unfortunately I slipped on those cobble, whatever they are. The stones are very shiny and whatever. So I slipped and I fell. I fell down, guys. And guess what? Everybody saw me fall down and nobody came to say, oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Is everything all right? The inhumanity, the lack of humanity amongst my colleagues, that just made me feel I am not going to work here anymore. I'm done. I can't work with these people. These are not human. Because even coming from a country like Kenya, everybody will run to you. Everybody will be running. Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Nothing. But I was on the ground and I was struggling to get up. It was raining and it was wet. Okay. And there's nobody who even said sorry. They saw me from far, just look and just continue like nothing ever happened. That is just toxic culture. And I'm talking about only toxic places because, of course, I've worked in fantastic places too. Yeah. But they're fewer than the toxic places. And I think more recently, I think I experienced more positive work environments earlier in my career compared to later in my career. So I think it's the time frame now. And we hear about it a lot on TikTok and everywhere else about the toxicity in the workplace. And I also can say that there could be some sort of correlation between people's mental health, the state of their mental health currently, the stress with the environment, especially the economic stresses that people are going through, and also the relationship stresses that people are going through, the loneliness that many people are experiencing. Many people are not even in any sort of partnerships, or they have issues with their estrangement with their families. So there could be a lot of undercurrent that is contributing to this kind of negativity in the workplace. And so we should understand that when you go into the work, again, there's a lot of people who are on mental health medications, which is not bad, but can also alter how they react and how they, it can probably make them numb. It can make them slow to react. It can make them, I don't know, but it can definitely alter them, And then there's, of course, a lot of people who are, just literally just have have switched off their emotion, switched off empathy. A lot of the world is very unempathetic. You will also see children being hurt. You see animals being hurt. You see many things happening in the world now that was not common before. And people being ruthless and uncaring. I think that, until we actually change that, and it starts from the family, until we actually change that, I don't think that the workplace is really going to change much. Yeah, it's not, until we attack the problem at the root, which is at the family level.
Yeah, I think it's important for us, in fact, to just let me complete what I was saying about how to deal with the bully, the office bully, is maybe you report to a person in authority. If it's the person in authority is the bully, you look for somebody higher up than them and follow the grievance policy. Usually institutions have grievance policies for employees. Also, don't be afraid to walk away. It's better to walk away and preserve your mental health than don't, because they're real tragic videos.
Walk off the
I
job.
think
Just
Fillmore has
forget.
not, yeah, it's just walk away because some people have really suffered really, really seriously as a result of, you know, the toxic work environment. The other thing is to keep a diary, so you have a record of, you know, the things that have happened. So the important thing is to look for practices for when you're looking for a job, is the 5 points that I shared with you, and employers should be encouraged to have positive workplace practices, because if you don't take care of your employees, there's going to be a problem with the output at the end of the day. I'm looking for some quotes because I found some lovely quotes as I was preparing for this show. I found some lovely quotes from, I'll find them from
I like how your
Elon Musk.
papers are going up and down.
Yeah,
Susan, it's
Elon
hilarious.
Musk. Elon Musk, he says,
Oh.
people work better when they know what the goal is and why. It is important that people look forward to coming to work in the morning and enjoy working. That's Elon Musk. And then Tom Roth says, in a toxic work environment, you have to be your own advocate. And then Karen Beeman says, a positive work environment will help you accomplish your goals and find happiness in your career, which is very true. You know, when it's toxic, you really, really, really can't, you know, operate at your best. It's very, very difficult to operate at your best because you start, you know, getting sick, actually, literally sick, you know. And I think there's some videos, maybe we'll talk about it on when we're discussing mental health, about the actual effects of toxic work relationship, because we haven't talked very much about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mental health on Sunday. Usually on
Yeah.
Sundays, guys, we have a mental health show, and now is a wonderful time to wrap up. Thank you, Susan. Those are lovely quotes. It's all about, you know, people taking responsibility also for themselves. Nobody else will love you more than yourself. So you got to love yourself, you know, care for yourself. And as much as you'd like to, you know, dedicate your life to your career, to your job, to whatever, one has to always put themselves first. Put yourself, you're number one. You are number one. Care for yourself, because without your self-esteem, without your loving yourself, you can never really be of good use to anybody else anyway. So, and again, a problem is if you stay in those toxic environments, then you miss an opportunity to perhaps find a better place to work. Yeah, maybe you're missing out on another opportunity where you could really be enjoying it. Or maybe you can decide to become your own boss, you know, and start your own company and have your own way of life, way of relating with your workmates, etc., and your colleagues. Okay, anyway, it's been lovely chatting with all of you guys. Thank you so much for being. I know it's been a long show. It's been over 2 hours, actually 2 hours and 2 minutes. It's time for us to close. It's actually very late here in Nairobi. It's actually 1:46 a.m. and it's time for us to go and catch our beauty sleep, because
Yes.
Susan said that lack of sleep is one of the most dangerous things in the world. So let's not forget to sleep and to rest. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, Suzanne. That was been a lovely show. Thank you, Louis, for all your contribution. It's been wonderful and very interesting and very entertaining. And thank you for confirming our suspicions that some of those jobs are actually fake. Oh my God, you guys, you need to check. Don't waste your time applying for jobs that are fake. We realized sooner or later that we were even writing long proposals for jobs that don't even exist. Terrible. Spending hours and days on proposal writing for projects that don't even exist. Yeah, so let's learn to be smart and to discern the truth from lies. And on that note, take care. All of you guys who are applying for jobs, wish you the best. And for those of you who are already in a toxic environment, we wish you success. And also for those of you who've been laid off or who are facing a layoff, we also wish you a lot of courage. And also to remember that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And let's not wallow in misery, and think of the positive things that could happen from your experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, and good night, everybody. Take care and see you on Sunday night with our mental.
night.
Good night. Bye-bye. Those of you who watch, remember to thumbs up our video. If you watch it after the show, remember to thumbs up our video and to share it. Bye-bye. Take care.